Hi, I'm Brittney Laidlaw and I'm a Griffith graduate in the Sustainable Enterprise major of the Bachelor of Business. I'm here in Hong Kong at the moment co-managing the Perma Club, which is the first of its kind in Hong Kong, and it's a permaculture education organisation. I actually didn't go into university straight from high school. I left school and I actually worked for a year. I sought work experience in Perth, Western Australia, where I'm from originally, and then I travelled. I went to the States and to Canada. And in Canada I kind of worked all over the place, and my goal was really to travel until I found out what I wanted to do. And I ended up in the outskirts of Vancouver, and I was working as a canoe and kayak instructor and a wildlife guide. And I really started engaging with nature, and I wasn't so much raised in the city at all. I was always quite close to nature, but it brought me back to the serenity and tranquility and the healing power of being around nature. And where I kind of wanted to take my path from that was much more engaged with nature. So I decided to come back from that experience and study at Griffith. And rather than raising funds and rather than kind of being on the outskirts of the cause, I really wanted to be hands deep in the earth, so to speak. So I found my way to permaculture after I studied my degree in sustainable enterprise. A lot of people, they're quite amazed at what we're able to achieve out here on such a small amount of land, and also what we're able to achieve in terms of the food that we grow here. We have a community of amazing people and team members that are kind of changing all the time as well. We have local people, we have expat communities, we have international volunteers coming down and create a community that is really trying to achieve a sustainable future in Hong Kong, and something different as well that hasn't been achieved in Hong Kong. As a local source of organic food, there's a community here which supports renewable energy, which has its own recycling in place. And so we're trying to achieve that sense of fair share, earth care and people care. I actually didn't go into university straight from high school. I left school and I actually worked for a year. I sought work experience in Perth, Western Australia, where I'm from originally, and then I travelled. I went to the States and to Canada. And in Canada I kind of worked all over the place, and my goal was really to travel until I found out what I wanted to do. And I ended up in the outskirts of Vancouver, and I was working as a canoe and kayak instructor and a wildlife guide. And I really started engaging with nature, and I wasn't so much raised in the city at all. I was always quite close to nature, but it brought me back to the serenity and tranquility and the healing power of being around nature. And where I kind of wanted to take my path from that was much more engaged with nature. So I decided to come back from that experience and study at Griffith. And it wasn't actually in environmental studies to begin with, it was in event management. And my dream was to create these green events, change the whole system of way events were done around the world, whether it be the Olympics, whether it be your local fundraiser, to raising more awareness for nature, conservation and things like this. But after a year in doing that, I discovered I had much more deep a connection with the environmental side, and rather than raising funds and rather than kind of being on the outskirts of the cause, I really wanted to be hands deep in the earth, so to speak. So I found my way to permaculture after I studied my degree in sustainable enterprise. I came to be in Hong Kong because I was awarded the Prime Minister's Endeavour Award between Asia and Australia. And as part of the award, I get the opportunity to do up to 12 months exchange at a university in Asia, and then you get to do an internship component, which is like work experience in a field that you're interested in. So I actually went to Hong Kong University as part of my internship, and I spent 6 months at the university. And through my endeavours working there, I started doing a couple of volunteering, and I found out the Hong Kong Perma Club, which is where currently I'm working at the moment. So after I finished university in Hong Kong and the typhoon in the Philippines happened, I went to the Philippines, and then after my time was finished in the Philippines, the manager of the Hong Kong Perma Club commended my efforts and commended what we had done in the Philippines and asked me to come back and actually be the manager of the Perma Club here. So I'm currently in Hong Kong managing the next stage of the Perma Club, which is getting renewable energy, which is doing rainwater catchment, sustainable building design with bamboo, and I'm taking it to the next stage now. Permaculture in a nutshell, it kind of marries that whole idea of when you ask sustainability, what is sustainability? You look at the word sustainability and it's the fact that it sustains itself for a very long time. So permaculture is the way that we achieve sustainability. It looks at how we're designing our living spaces and how we're interacting with nature and prevents that opportunity to make it much more in balance and in harmony. So it looks at using renewable energy technologies. It looks at growing our own organic food in a way that's very small scale and intensive rather than needing these huge monocrop farms. It looks at how do we catch our own rainwater, how do we actually manage our waste. So all of those in a way that is balanced and in harmony with nature, that is creating no imbalances or no environmental degradation. So the permaculture is kind of guided by three main ethics, and that's care for the people, care for the earth, and fair share. And the idea is care for the earth. So everything that we do, whether it's considering our waste, whether it's considering how we grow our food, it takes care of the environment that actually sustains our very life. We care for the people, so we treat each other with fair. We have social justice. Everyone is equal. And we also have fair share. So the way we operate in a community, if people have too much surplus that they can't, eat themselves, or whether it's turns about food, whether they produce so much energy from their solar power, we share it as a community, so it creates a fair share for everybody. Permaculture is actually it's a set of principles which follows ecological design. So it's basically a design system that mimics nature. So nature has been doing these things perfectly for thousands of years, and they have no waste, they have no problems when it comes to creating environmental degradation. So if we look at that and copy those systems in terms of where we source our energy, where we source our water, how we source our food, and the kind of what we put into the land, then it creates this ecological balance that operates in this big circle. And it creates long-term environmental sustainability. A lot of people actually wonder how I got from business going into permaculture. And from what I learned at Griffith is there's this balance of the three pillars of sustainability, or the three pillars of business, and that's environmental, social and economic. And when you look at the principles of permaculture, they're no different. You have people care, earth care and fair share, which is your economic, your social and your environmental. So the way I see it is permaculture is the perfect business, it's the perfect social enterprise operating in harmony and balance. When I was in the Honours College, I got the opportunity to go to the Rio+20 UN Conference for Sustainable Development, and it really opened my eyes to the possibilities of where I could really take my degree and what I could do with it, and kind of the person that I could actually create out of myself into gaining the knowledge that I needed to go on to the next stage. So I think that was a real trigger point, seeing so many other young people in line with my values and my ethics, I think was a real inspiration too, because sometimes you feel like so isolated when you care about these things, and you feel like you're a little crazy going, why isn't anybody else caring about these things? And when you're involved in that community of youth that are actually concerned as you are and doing something about it, it was like, wow, okay, I can do this. And then Griffith has been really supportive since in providing opportunities for me to kind of follow that through still. One of the most amazing life experiences that I've ever had was actually going to the Philippines. After the Typhoon Haiyan, or Yolanda in some places they call it, hit the Philippines, some areas were completely wiped out, and the devastation was really just horrendous. People had no houses, they had no food, and not really any hope at the time as well, and especially in communities where a lot of international organisations and the UN wasn't able to reach. So I was actually sponsored to go over after completing my degree, and I went over to help out as best as I could by helping them getting organic food growing again, by rebuilding their houses with technologies that I learnt in Bali with bamboo construction. And I went over as one of the team members, and it turned out that after being there for a few weeks, I became the schools coordinator and ran a schools program. We wanted to create this abundant source of food so they didn't have to worry about going home and having no food. They can always be secure that they'll always have food when they come to school. So rather than just providing one meal, by the end of 3 months we were able to provide meals for all the children, 3 meals a day. They were able to come and get their organic vegetables to take home at the end of the day, and a lot of the local students too, they introduced a home ec class, so they were able to create cooking lessons of the food that we were growing. So it was an amazing achievement, and it wasn't just about growing the food, it was also showing these children different ways that they could do things in their community around the holistic education of sustainability. So we noticed a lot of the rice farmers there, they would have these mounds and mounds of rice hay, and at the end of every harvest they would just light it up and it would just go into smoke, and it would create this huge smoky haze over the whole town. So we got all the children together and said, we want to use these and we want to stop this pollution in the local area. So we gave them each one bag. And at the end of the week, we told each student, and there was a couple hundred students at the school, we said, bring back one bag of rice husk or rice hay from your local farm. And they all bought one, and we turned it into compost, we turned it into mulch, we even turned it into flooring. We were working on creating a technology to make a render out of the rice husk. And so we turned this thing that was creating a really big problem, and a health problem and also a pollution problem in the area, into a solution that we could start using in the schools. And before we knew it, we had trucks rocking up of rice husk. But it was incredible to be able to make such a difference in such a short amount of time in multiple ways. So it was really life-altering for me, the impact that you're able to make as soon as you kind of step out that borders of Australia and into communities which might be a bit scary, like the Philippines, but the impact that you're able to make there just ripples out so much further. So the Griffith Honours College is a cohort of students that have performed very well academically but are also heavily engaged with community involvement projects. So they're out there doing volunteering, they're seeking those international experiences, and they're out there in the community trying to make a difference even before their university degree is finished. So they're kind of on their road to success while they're still a student, and Griffith Honours College supports endeavours like that so they're able to achieve those goals once they've finished their degree. The Griffith Honours College has given me really great opportunities internationally as well as locally. They've given me the confidence to approach organisations and to approach these own challenges, and whether it's a project or whether it's a business myself, and to present myself to them as an educated, experienced young individual that wants to make a difference, that wants to do something. And they've also opened my eyes up to what can be achieved. At first I didn't think, oh, that's not me, I can't do that, I can't go to some conference, I can't tell people about my thoughts. And they really opened that up and gave me I wouldn't say gave me a voice, but they showed me that I had a microphone. For somebody just starting out in the Griffith Honours College, I would say take every opportunity that comes at you. There are so many amazing opportunities that are once-in-a-lifetime opportunities that will be to go to an international conference or to go to a meeting where there's networking people that are really passionate about the ideas you're passionate about. But all these opportunities are presented onto you on a platter, but they're not there for the people who aren't willing to take them. You actually have to do up your application, you have to take the step forward, you have to send that email, as scary as it may be. But the opportunities that come out of that and the experience that you'll gain from that will not only build your confidence, but they'll also take you to that next step, and then you can kind of go on to your journey from there.